Now it is 2 o'clock, madam. We will start now.
Okay, we can.
Yes, shall I start now, madam?
We can.
Yeah, okay. So good afternoon to everyone. Respected speaker of today's afternoon of our one-day webinar entitled Employment Opportunities Through Advanced Mushroom Cultivation and Mechanization. So morning, Sir Sendil Kumaran, he has delivered the lecture on mechanization in the mushroom cultivation, spawn production, and post-harvest spawn production, scope for a new entrepreneur. So this afternoon we have esteemed resource person, Dr. Meera Pandey, madam. So principal scientist retired from Mushroom Laboratory, IIHR, Bangalore. So before going further, I would like to read a biodata. So Dr. Meera Pandey, madam, is retired as a principal scientist in Mushroom Research Lab at ICAR, Indian Institute of Horticultural Research, Bangalore. She has an experience of more than 3 decades of conducting research on spawn production, mushroom production, improvement, processing, value addition, and mechanization of mushroom crops. She has been the pioneer in conserving, domesticating, and commercializing the indigenous mushroom species in India. She has conserved, domesticated, and commercialized 12 indigenous species of mushrooms. Country's first low-spored mutant of Pleurotus sojarkaju was developed by Dr. Pandey madam through radiation mutation. Dr. Meera Pandey madam laid a foundation of mechanization in Indian mushroom industry and integration of solar energy in mushroom production system, which is led to the designation of a spawn missionary and establishing of 26 energy efficient mechanized spawn production labs, both in private and public sector in the country. She has developed numerous mushrooms value-added products which have enhanced mushroom consumption. Dr. Meera Pandey developed strategies to utilize mushroom technology to empower women through ready-to-fruit RTF bags technology. This technology has taken mushroom to the backyard of every urban and rural home and helped in enhancing household nutrition and income. Dr. Meera Pandey has developed technologies like iron fortified mushroom to help in mitigation of iron malnutrition. She has also developed calcium and vitamin D rich mushrooms for better health and nutrition. She has trained more than 2,000 state government officers to help them establish mushrooms units in various state government departments. She has trained more than 3,000 women, more than 1,000 entrepreneurs in mushroom cultivation. She has been actively involved with various NGOs and self-help groups through establishing of RTF bags production unit all over the country. She has more than 100 publications, which include research papers, book chapters, technical bulletins, technical folders, and popular articles. She has guided many PhD and MSc students as well. So with this introduction, I would like to add a few more point or information to share with you all the participants. Madam has visited 2 times to our Pasighat, and she has trained more than 25 entrepreneurs for the mushroom cultivation in our region. And Madam has also conducted the spawn production techniques and how to overcome pests and diseases in the spawn laboratory as well as in the cultivation of mushroom. And thank you, Madam. We remember, we cherish your visit to the Pasighat and providing us this how to prepare even RTF bags and providing these machineries also, spawn production machinery, and then bags sterilizing autoclave as well as a chaff cutter, and all those. It is still we are using it for the benefit of students and farmers and entrepreneur. And thank you so much, Madam. So with this, I would like to hand over this platform to Madam. Madam, please, you can continue.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Dr. Raja. And a very good afternoon to all the participants and the organizers. And at the onset, I would like to thank Dr. Raja for conducting this webinar for the benefit of the people in the Northeast. And I hope I'm audible.
Yes, Madam, audible, Madam.
Okay, thank you. Now, I will be speaking a little bit about some new species of mushrooms which can be suitably grown in the Northeast, and they can find a very good market in other parts of the country as well as in the Northeast itself. The first such exotic mushroom which I would like to talk about is Shiitake mushroom. Now, Shiitake mushroom is well known in Northeast. Already people are collecting from the forest areas. When I visited Northeast, I have seen them in the Manipur market and also in Pasighat, where people have been selling the dried Shiitake mushrooms. And Shiitake mushroom has got a lot of importance also because of the fact that it is world's #1 as far as consumption is concerned. People generally do not know that button mushroom is slowly losing its importance as #1 variety. There was a time when it was #1 variety globally, but now Shiitake mushroom with 26% of production is #1, followed by oyster mushroom, 21%, and of course wood ear mushroom, which is again a very popular mushroom in the Northeast. But I don't know why people still don't grow it. They are, in fact, I was told when I visited Northeast that they are still importing it from China. So this is also 21%, and button mushroom has come down to position 4 with 11% of production. So, and of course, there are many other varieties. So we will be just talking about a few varieties and some new varieties which we have also conserved and commercialized at IIHI. As far as Shiitake mushroom is concerned, the cultivation of this variety was being done in China more than 1,000 years back. In 1979, a kind of, a proper cultivation, industrial cultivation started. And in 87, the bag system of cultivation started. Shiitake mushroom is grown in 2 ways. They are grown on the logs as well as on sawdust bags contained, sawdust contained inside a bag. As far as log cultivation is concerned, this is an older method of cultivation which was being done in China, but gradually they have shifted now. When an industrial production was needed, then log would not be the right way of doing it, and therefore it was they have progressed over to a sawdust bag cultivation. But nevertheless, in Japan, in China, and also in parts of Europe and all, there are still people who grow, especially when they grow it for their own consumption. They mushrooms on logs. Now, when it comes to kind of substrates which are used for shiitake mushroom cultivation, logs are one, of course, then sawdust, wood chips, combined with rice bran, wheat bran, and gypsum, and also the logs, the logs of different trees. When it comes to shiitake mushroom strains, there are strains which can grow around 10 degrees centigrade, 10 to 18 degrees centigrade. There are which can grow at 20 degrees centigrade also. And we have taken at IHR maximum, we have taken the crop is what up to 26 degrees centigrade, but then the yields are impacted. The quality of the mushroom is also impacted. So I would say that the optimal temperature for shiitake would be anywhere between 18 to 22. That would be an ideal temperature condition. Now, when it comes to methods of cultivation, there is the outdoor cultivation, which is done on logs, and there is an indoor cultivation, which is done on sterile sawdust blocks. And when it comes to the outdoor logs, it is generally done on hardwood logs like oaks and maple, and I think the Northeast must be having these trees. The hilly stations generally have these trees, and chestnut, all these are done. Now, these are the common trees which are used for growing this mushroom. It is maple and white ash and oak and hickory, and these are the trees which are used. The logs are cut. The trees, which are going to be cut for taking the logs, they are marked first, and then they are cut. The logs have to be around 3 to 4 feet in length, about 3 to 8 inches in width. The diameter of the log, and the bark is generally not removed. It is used with the bark. And these are some of the things which are required when you're growing on logs. You need what is called as Dormant Spawn. Because this is an outdoor cultivation, it is difficult to use the normal grain spawn because number one, the grains will rot, and number two, the grains become, they attract the rodents. And since this is an outdoor cultivation, without any prevention of rodents, so generally the sawdust spawn is used. The sawdust spawn comes in the form of plugs called as dowel spawn. And then you need a drilling machine to drill hole in the logs. Then you need some wax for closing the holes. And then you need a plunger so that you can pick up the dowel spawn and then you can put it inside the hole. Now the logs are cut and the holes are drilled in them with a drilling machine, and the diameter of the hole and the distance between two holes, these are all maintained. So this is all the distance, and the distance between two holes and the depth of the hole is also maintained. So 1 to 1.5 inches depth is maintained. Almost 5 to 5.5 inches of diameter is maintained. And so this is how the holes are made, and the whole log all around the holes are drilled. And after drilling the hole, the dowel spawn, the spawn with the help of this plunger is picked up, and it is one spawn, which is like a plug, like a wooden plug, is inserted in one hole. And this is how all the holes are filled with the spawn. And then many people, they melt the wax and then they close those holes. Or many times it is also closed with these foams, styrofoam, those packing materials which are there. So they close it with that so that rodents or rotting doesn't happen. So this is how all the holes are closed. Then it is labeled, the date and other things are put. And then these are left for spawn running. The spawn running in case of log cultivation, maybe anywhere between 2 to 5 years. So that long it takes until the whole wooden block is covered with the mycelium internally. And after the 2 or 3 years, after the spell of after the winters, when the shock treatment is naturally happening, then the mushrooms, they start appearing from the logs. Wherever the holes are there, the mushroom fruiting bodies, they protrude out from that. During spawn running stage, many a times, the logs have to be kept constantly wet. So if the climate is such, then it's fine. Otherwise, people use some drip irrigation techniques and they pass water so that the logs are continuously kept wet. And this is how the mushrooms will start appearing. And then these mushrooms are, harvested. They are sliced or they are whole, taken to the market in the form of fresh or in the form of dried mushroom. So this is how the log cultivation happens. This is the actual tree logs which have been cut for Shiitake mushroom cultivation. The drilling machine, the holes are drilled, and this is the plug spawn. This is the plug spawn made out of sawdust, which is put inside the hole, and then this is either plugged. The hole is plugged either with the melted wax or with the this foam or this material, normal packing material, what you get nowadays. And then these are the logs. This is how they are kept. And then these logs are arranged they can be just simply kept or they can be arranged under this fashion. Many times, if the temperature during the spawn running phase in case of Shiitake mushroom requires around 24-25 degrees centigrade. So in those countries, especially China and Japan, where the system is done, or even in the Northeast, in Arunachal Pradesh, I'm told that people do this log cultivation. The natural ambient temperatures are like that. So people don't have to, do anything extra for temperature control. So that is why the logs are kept outdoors. And if the temperatures go very low, as it happens in Japan and China in winters, then they generally, when it is snowing outside, they generally have a kind of, a structure to cover on the roof, so that, the inside is not, a little warmer than the outside temperature. And these are generally watered, or sometimes if the temperatures are fine, they are left even as such in the forest areas. And after about 3 to 5 years, the mushrooms, they start coming out. Generally, the yield of mushrooms on logs is much lower as compared to sawdust, but the quality of the mushrooms is very good. They are very thick, very fleshy, and they have a distinct aroma. So when it comes to quality, the log-derived mushrooms are better in quality as compared to the sawdust bags, but then yield-wise, they are much lower. The biological efficiency will be much lower, and it takes a very long time for the mushrooms to come. So that is the reason why, log cultivation is still limited to a kind of hobby scale cultivation, and it has not become industrial. And this is how the mushrooms are harvested and then they are sold. Now coming to the indoor cultivation, which is done on sawdust, the commercial method of cultivation, and a number of formulas have been used. If you look at the literature, a lot of different kinds of substrate formulas which have been used. But what is common is sawdust, wheat or rice bran, gypsum. These are the common things which are used. The proportion might change from place to place depending on the local requirement, but these are the common things which are generally used. And people have tried to grow this variety even on paddy straw. And even in Solon, DMR Solon, people have tried growing it on paddy straw. You can grow, but the biological efficiency is very low, and the quality of the mushroom is also quite bad. So, it's your choice. If you have difficult time in getting sawdust, then you can try on paddy straw, but then definitely that is not the recommended substrate. At IHR, we have standardized the production technology with sawdust, wood chips, rice bran, and of course water for moisture of the substrate. Now, Although in countries like China and Korea and Japan, where mushrooms are very, very important, and shiitake mushrooms are very, very important part of their diet. So they take a lot of care in cultivating it, and there's a lot of backup for this industry also, in the sense that you are able to get. There are companies which will supply you, the sawdust of a single type of tree. You can get oak sawdust only. You can get maple sawdust only. You can get hickory tree sawdust only. But in case of India, that is not possible. If you go to sawmills, the hardwood sawmills, you will never get a single tree sawdust. You will always get a mixed kind of sawdust. So we at IHR, we have standardized the cultivation package on mixed sawdust, which is available under Bangalore conditions. And under Bangalore conditions, the mixed sawdust which is available is that of teak, sal, sometimes mango is also mixed in this. So these are the trees which are generally, you get a mixed sawdust. And you take that mixed sawdust, and in the same saw mill, you get this fine wood shavings also, very papery, fine wood shavings of the same, bark of the same trees. So this also you can use. And then you need to use about 25% of rice bran, whatever sawdust you have, or the sawdust and wood chip mixture, whatever you have, 25% of that should be the rice bran. And then you have to use 60% moisture. And so roughly if you use 1.5 liters of water for every 1 kg of mixture, so you will be able to get that kind of moisture, around 60 to 65% moisture. Now, one important thing as far as shiitake mushroom is concerned, cultivation is concerned, you need to sterilize the substrate, and therefore an autoclave is a must. Without autoclaving, you cannot cultivate this variety. So you have to do the sterilization of these. The substrate. The substrate is filled inside polypropylene bags, and then you put a PP ring as the neck. Put non-absorbent cotton plug, and then you have to sterilize it at 121 degrees centigrade, around 18 pound pressure (psi) for at least minimum of 2 hours. If you are having 1 kg substrate in each bag, it has to be 2 hours. If you have more than 1 kg substrate, your time will have to be increased. So this is how it is sterilized. And after the sterilization is done, the bags are allowed to cool, and then they are spawned. Now, in this case, when you are spawning on sawdust, then you can use grain spawn. Just open the bag from the top and have a measurement. We generally recommend 5%. You can use even 10% of the substrate. So for every 1 kg bag, substrate, you can use about 100 grams of spawn, put it on the top, and just shake the bag, and the whole spawn gets mixed up inside the bag. The temperature requirement during spawn running, that is the vegetative growth when it is happening. In case of shiitake mushroom, now this is one of those rare mushrooms where the spawn running period is quite long. It takes about anywhere between 1 to 4 months. Generally, it is about 2 to 2.5 months. It is after 2.5 months that you start getting the mushroom fruit bodies. So the temperature is around 24 plus minus, anywhere between 24 to 26 degrees centigrade. And the duration, depending on the kind of strain you are using, it could be anywhere between 2 to 3 months. Generally around 1.5 days, 1.5 months, the spawn running is completed. And by the time it gets browned, it is around 2 months. Now, during these 2 to 2.5 months, a lot of changes happen inside the bag. Initially, when you put the spawn, they grow in this form, whitish growth, very fast. Within 20 to 25 days, the whole sawdust is colonized by this kind of a mycelium. And then further, this mycelium keeps thickening. And this is called as mycelial coat formation. It will become, the density of growth will increase. And so another about 20-25 days, by 50-55 days, by 68th day, it will be very thick and whitish growth. And this rounded kind of structure will start forming. So this is the mycelial coat. And then this is the third stage you reach by say around 70 to 90 days, you will reach the stage which is called as the popcorn stage or the bump formation. And this is very essential. This is an indication that the culture, what you're using is a good culture and is going to give you a lot of mushrooms. If this bump formation is not happening, then generally there's a question mark on that strain. So this is how it happens. And then the color will start changing to browning. So by anywhere between 80 to 90 days, the color of the spawn running stage bags will start turning to browning. And let these bags brown, and by say when half of the bags are brown or 3/4 of the bags when they are brown, then these are the polythene is removed and then they are shifted into the cropping room. Now in the cropping room, the temperature is around 18 to 22 degrees centigrade, and the humidity is maintained initially around 60 to 65%, and the browning happens very fast. And the bags totally become brown like this. From this stage, they become this stage. By after opening in about 10 to 15 days, they become brown like this, and they become a little hard. Now this is very, very important. If they are not hard, then that means there's contamination inside. So which you will come to know when you do the soaking of the bags. So this is how the bark stage is. This is called as the bark stage. And then this is the hard stage. And after this, you will start getting the mushrooms, and you have to induce fructification. So what do you do for that? In many strains, when you open the blocks and keep it after about 70, 80 days, sometimes you will get the mushrooms. Some mushrooms you will get at that time also. You can very well harvest those mushrooms and allow the blocks to brown. And then after browning, you have to give cold water shock treatment for mushrooms to come out. Now, how this cold water shock treatment is given? You can soak these brown blocks under water. It should be underwater. The water temperature can be anywhere 8 to 12 degrees centigrade. You can soak it overnight, or you can soak it even for about 2 to 3 hours. And then you take out these bags and put them back on the shelves in the cropping rooms, where you are maintaining a temperature of around 18 to 22 degrees centigrade. So this is a cold water shock treatment which has been given, and that will initiate the mushrooms to form. So this is how maintain a temperature of 18 to 22 and maintain a humidity of around 80 to 85%. So that is very, very important. And once the mushrooms are of this size, harvest them. Now, this is the right stage of harvesting, when the cap, the border of the cap, the edges of the cap are still turned inside. They are inside. As the temperature, as the bags are, as the mushrooms are maturing, the fruit bodies the caps are becoming flattened. So this is the mushroom which is the right stage of harvesting, and these mushrooms will have better shelf life. They will fetch better market price as compared to this, and this is a totally mature mushroom. Although you can consume it, but it will have a very bad shelf life, and maybe even the markets, especially the European and the American market, will not take this. In India, maybe it will be sold, but those markets, the high niche markets, will not take this. So you have to be very careful at what stage of maturity you are harvesting your mushrooms. So this is how the cap has to be inside. The cap has to be the margin of the cap has to still remain inside and not flatten, and that is how it has to be. When industrial production is done, a lot of care is taken in the mushroom growing houses for maintaining temperature and maintaining humidity and maintaining sanitation and all that, because it is done at an industrial scale and a lot of investment goes into these farms. So generally, we know that in mushrooms, the best mushroom quality as well as quantity wise is attained in the first flush. The first flush gives you the best crop. As the flushes are increasing, the quality and the quantity both is coming down. So what many of these Japanese and the Chinese farmers, what they do is, they want to be very, very efficient, economically efficient, also, scientifically efficient. So what they do is, they take the first flush in very maintained, properly maintained cropping rooms, from second or from the third flush, third and fourth flush, they transfer the bags into another cropping room where they don't maintain the conditions so nicely. It is called as recapture room, where the third and the fourth flush, which is for a lower end market, is harvested. So this is how they are able to maintain the quality, because the first flush mushrooms, they are sold at a higher price and at a higher niche market, and that is where they are grown under the best conditions. And the other mushrooms, the third and the fourth flush mushrooms, or many times even the second flush mushroom, which is, sometimes the shape might not be so good, the maturity level might not be so good, they are sold in the open market just like any other vegetable. So this is how it is done. And when the Japanese and the Chinese, especially now, they have this concept of marketing. They don't market a single mushroom. They market many types of mushroom. Now here 4 types of mushrooms are being marketed. In the same pack, you have a few shiitake, you have king oyster, you have shimeji, and you have enoki mushrooms. Because this is how, the diversity of the food has to be maintained. So this is a better pack nutritionally, and also, a grower will be able to grow under the same conditions. He will be able to grow all the 4 crops almost on the same substrate and the same kind of conditions. So instead of growing just one kind of crop, they bring in diversity because consumers want diversity. So this is how it is done. And this is how, shiitake mushroom, king oyster, normal oyster, shimeji, and this is how they are marketed. And the shiitake mushroom is also marketed in the dry form or in small, very, very small pieces where it is, done as mushroom tea. It is taken as mushroom tea. And this is very, very, important way of consuming mushrooms, especially in Japan and in China. They keep consuming this shiitake mushroom tea the whole day, sip by sip, they keep taking it. The dried shiitake, they are sold either as whole mushrooms or they are sliced and then they are sold. The whole mushroom can also be sliced and sold. So this is how the dried mushrooms are sold. Then shiitake powder, a very pure powder, is also sold. But for all these processing things, you need an FSSI license. So you should have an FSSI license, follow all the conditions as laid down by FSSI, and then you can process these things. Shiitake mushrooms are now being converted into very nice, chips, the whole mushroom, very nice and very tasty chips, the dried form, generally done by vacuum frying. And this is finding a very good market because, it is not only very healthy, but also, it's one of the very, very good things for weight reduction. People who want to be on diet, if they have just about 2 or 3 pieces of these chips and they feel very full and they don't need to, eat for another 3 to 4 hours. So these are the ways in which now there are people who are combining the shiitake and turmeric in the powder form so that people can simply simmer in water and take the shiitake and turmeric tea. So even that is being sold as health ingredient. So this was how shiitake mushroom can be grown, and this because the climate of Northeast is very suitable. The normal climate, your ambient climate is very suitable. You can think of shiitake mushrooms, and the market, there's enough market. Market is not at all a problem. Then we have a whole lot of oyster mushrooms, and I'm not going to talk about all oyster mushrooms because people have been growing the oysters mushrooms. Your Northeast is very congenial for growing oyster mushroom, but I will talk about one particular oyster mushroom, which is called a king oyster mushroom, which is a very, very tasty oyster mushroom, and as of now fetches very high price in the Indian market. And this king oyster mushroom, it has got, these are the steps of cultivation, the substrate preparation, sterilization, spawning, spawn running, and cropping like any other mushroom. Now the substrates which we have been standardizing is, we have done it, we have grown it on paddy straw, on wheat straw. There are other people who have grown it on barley, maize, and so many other cereal straws. 65% of the straw mixed with 25% rice bran. This can also be tried on soybean, straw if it is available. People have also tried to grow it on wheat straw plus 10% cotton hulls wherever it is available. At IIHR, we have tried it on hardwood sawdust plus corn cob waste in 1:1 ratio with 25% rice bran or wheat bran. Then we have also grown it on hardwood sawdust plus 25% rice bran or wheat bran. We have also grown it on the shiitake substrate. So if you're a shiitake mushroom grower, the same substrate can be used for king oyster mushroom growing also. And also the shiitake mushroom, spent mushroom substrate. If you're a shiitake mushroom grower, after taking 1 or 2 crops of the shiitake mushroom, that spent mushroom substrate, you can use that also by adding another 10% of rice bran to that and again sterilizing those bags. Even that can be used for king oyster mushroom cultivation. Again, king oyster mushroom cultivation will require autoclaving. The substrate has to be sterilized. If it is a sawdust-based substrate, then the sterilization has to be 1.5 to 2 hours. And if it is a straw-based substrate, then it has to be minimum 45 minutes to 1 hour at 18 pounds pressure and 121 degree centigrade. And after that, it is these bags are opened from the top. The cotton plug is removed and the spawn is put on the top, and the bags are just shaken and the whole spawn gets mixed inside the bag. The spawn running temperature is 23 to 26 degrees centigrade. And generally, a good spawn running, the density of the growth is generally good within 1.5 months. So at least 45 days of spawn running is good. And you can extend it up to 2 months also. And after that, the bags are transferred to low temperature. Now, this is a low temperature variety. So you require again about 12 to 18 degrees centigrade. So we have grown it at 18 degrees centigrade, but the best temperature would be anywhere between 12 to 15 degrees centigrade. So you can grow this, you just make some slits in the bag. Don't remove the entire polythene, just tie it on the top and put some slits and then lower the temperature and maintain a humidity of around 80 to 85%, about 500 lux of light, and a lot of ventilation in the room. And you will get the mushrooms after about, say, around 10 days. You start getting the mushrooms. And these are very thick, very nice and fleshy, very, very tasty mushrooms. So you can just harvest them, or people have also tried casing, and that also can yield a little better than without casing. So whatever, it depends on you. You can take without casing and casing both. And this is how the size progresses. Generally here also, when the cap is slightly incurved, that is the right stage of harvesting. This stage is generally, the shelf life will not be so good, although there's no difference on the taste. So you can harvest these mushrooms. These are nice, thick, and they weigh quite, each mushroom can weigh around 30 to 40 grams. So these are heavy mushrooms, and you can harvest them. Generally take about, you can see the effect of temperature. The caps are much more darker at lower temperature. 16 to 70 degrees centigrade, the caps are darker, they are much more thicker, and the stalk is also shorter. At around temperatures when they go beyond 18 degrees centigrade, I think this is this actually, and this is this. Sorry for this. So when the temperatures are around 17, 18 degrees centigrade, the color of the cap, it becomes lighter, and the stalk is also a little longer. Of course, the stalk is also edible in this case. It's a very chewy and very edible and very nice. So this is how the temperature plays an important role. Industrially, in other countries, especially the Koreans, they grow it in bottles, and these are polypropylene bottles. And this is an industrial scale cultivation, and it's a total automated farm. Absolutely, it is 100%. All the operations are automated, and many of the countries like China, Korea, Japan, Italy, and Hungary are following this bottle system of cultivation. The investment in such farms is very, very high, and they have a totally controlled condition, and they have these huge autoclaves, and these are the bottles which are filled with the sawdust spawn. Each bottle will have around 800 grams, only 800 grams of the sawdust mixture, and they autoclave it in these huge autoclaves. They're autoclaved, then they are spawned, and this is the spawn running room. They maintain these warehouses, and these are the spawn running bottles where all the growth is happening. The spawn running is happening. This is how the spawn running is happening in polypropylene bottles. And after the spawn running is complete, after about say 1 to 1.5 months, or they go for 2 months also, then the temperature is lowered, humidity is maintained, and then the cropping happens. So this is how the cropping starts. The cropping happens from the top of the bottle. Now, as you can see that, there are about 4 or 5 mushrooms in each bottle. But those countries, they are so quality conscious that they are not interested in number of mushrooms. So what they do a process called as pinching. They will remove all these smaller mushrooms. They will remove them, and they will leave only 2 mushrooms per bottle. Only 2 mushrooms are left in every bottle, and they are of good size, and then they are harvested. Then they are graded, grading is done, and then they are packed, and then they are brought to the market. So this is another very tasty, a very good oyster mushroom, king oyster mushroom. In places like Bangalore, it will fetch you around 2,000 to 2,500 rupees a kg. The conditions, the climate conditions in the Northeast is very congenial for this mushroom. So I think people should try to grow this mushroom in Northeast. And this can also be, you can very well have a very good market in Calcutta or in Guwahati or in Delhi, or even now you have direct flights to Bangalore. So you can market them anywhere. Marketing will never be a problem. Even this mushroom, they can be dehydrated. This is only the stalk, which is cut into thin slices, and it is dehydrated. This is the cap, which is dehydrated. And again, if you need dehydration and all these things, you need to have an FSSAI license. And only of the stalk, very good value addition, only with the stalk is made. So these are crunchy things which are made out of only of the stalk, because stalk is nice and thick. So, that also can be done. And again, king oyster tea, you have this small, very small pieces. See, they have this, very, very fine, small pieces which are dried. We empty out this 1 pouch in, say, 1 cup of hot water, simmer it for some time, and then keep sipping it and keep eating those pieces. They're very, very small pieces, not 1 mm or 1.5 mm pieces. So this is how the king oyster tea, and then this is the pure powder. And they also, many times they put this mushroom along with other vegetables like cucumber and chilies into, for pickling. The Europeans have a different method of pickling. They put it in vinegar and salt, and they just consume it. So that also people are able to do it. And they make, just like for shiitake mushroom, they make very crunchy snacks out of it, which is done by vacuum frying. So that is a very novel idea which can be tried. Of course, that will require investment. Then another very important mushroom, an exotic mushroom, is lion's mane mushroom or hericium. Now, this is a very important, not only a good edible mushroom, but it is also very highly medicinal mushroom. And this mushroom, almost all mushrooms are medicinal, but this mushroom is very specific because it contains bioactive substances which can cross the brain-blood barrier and they can stimulate and help in nerve regeneration. It can stimulate the nerve regeneration factors. So that is why a lot of work is going on this variety, especially what role it can play for neuron related diseases like dementia or Alzheimer's or these kind of diseases. So this is one thing which is very important about this mushroom. And we at IHR, we have standardized the basic production protocol. It is done on sterilized sawdust supplemented with rice or wheat bran. We have also done it with a sawdust and corn cob waste together. And also we have grown this again on shiitake mushroom, spent mushroom substrate. And again, the substrate has to be sterilized in autoclave for at least 1 to 1.5 hours, depending on what substrate you're using. It is again, the spawn is prepared on the sorghum grains. It is spawned from the top. The spawn running temperature is again 24-25 degrees centigrade. The duration can be 1.5 to 2 months. And after that, the polythene bags are just slit. They are not opened fully, they are just slit and lower the temperature to around 18 degrees centigrade. So anywhere between 18 to 22, just like shiitake. And after about 10 to 12 days or sometimes 15 days, you get these mushrooms. Now these mushrooms are of very, very different shape. They don't have a proper, what you generally visualize as cap and stalk. These are, small thread-like balls, very soft balls. And as long as this is compact, you should harvest when it is compact. The moment this ball starts becoming loose, that means it is becoming mature, and sometimes it becomes slightly yellowish. It starts changing the color to slightly yellowish. So this is another mushroom which can be grown. The spawn is available at IHR, and people can order for spawn, and you can grow an excellent variety not only for eating but also for medicinal purpose. Again, it can be sold as fresh or as dry. Now, another very important and a very new variety what we have commercialized, as was told in the beginning. IIHR stands apart in the country for domesticating a lot of indigenous species. Until 10-15 years back, 20 years back, India had only button mushroom and 1 or 2 oyster mushrooms and paddy straw mushroom. Nothing more was known. And so for the first time in 89-90, IHR gave milky mushroom, which was an indigenous mushroom from Bengal. It was originally, cultured by Dr. Purkayastha, and then he gave the culture to IHR, and IHR commercialized it. And then, for a very long time, we had about 4 varieties: button, oyster, milky, and paddy straw. And then again, IHR introduced a number of other oyster varieties like Hypsizygus albanus, which has now become the most important oyster mushroom, which was introduced by IHR in 2007. Then we introduced shiitake, and then we introduced king oyster. We have introduced hericium, and now we are introducing 2 more varieties called as this is again oyster mushroom, of course, called as tuber oyster mushroom. And this mushroom was collected from Tripura. This is the market, Chaumuhani market near Lake Chaumuhani. We had collected this from a local market. A tribal woman was selling this mushroom. And the same mushroom was being sold in Manipur as well. So, we collected this mushroom, we brought it to IHR, cultured it, developed the culture, and then we did the validation trial on straw-based substrate. And then after the culture was conserved, then we standardized the commercial cultivation package. And this mushroom, we have standardized the package of cultivation on sterilized paddy straw. The paddy straw is sterilized at about 18-pound pressure for about 20 to 25 minutes. The spawn running temperature is 25 to 35 degrees centigrade. The fructification, the spawn running period is almost around 25 to 30 days, like any other oyster mushroom. The temperature for cropping is 25 to 30 degrees centigrade. It can come up to 35 degrees centigrade also. And the biological efficiency is around 30 to 40%. And a very important aspect of this mushroom is that this mushroom has got very high protein. It has got 40% protein, higher than even soybean. So this is one very important aspect of this mushroom. So this is how it comes, and you can harvest it. You can harvest it when it is little younger. Again, when the margin of the cap is inside. This is an over mature mushroom. So when the cap is like this, you can harvest it. In this case, the stalk is very, very tough stalk. So stalk is generally not edible. You'll have to find out, some other use for the stalk. But the cap is also highly fibrous, not as soft as other oyster mushrooms. But since it was being consumed in the Northeast and being collected from the forest areas, so I suppose now people in the Northeast can grow this mushroom instead of going and collecting it from the forest areas. They can grow and they can start eating this mushroom. And as you can see, under Bangalore conditions, all year round it can be grown, but generally from March to September it can be grown, or October it can be grown, very nicely. And the most important aspect is that the protein is almost 4.34%. Now, this is the most important aspect of this variety. It is high on protein, good on fiber, very good on potassium, very, very good on potassium, phosphorus, even iron to some extent, and zinc. Again, very high on zinc, very good, on zinc. So this is why this mushroom is of utmost importance. And if you compare this mushroom with the nutritional of soybean, the white soybean and the brown soybean, you can see that it is much higher in protein compared to white and brown both. Fat is much less as compared to soybean, which is good. It is more in carbohydrate as compared to soybean. Fiber, it is less as compared to soybean. Calcium, it is much more higher as compared to soybean. Potassium, it is less as compared to soybean. Magnesium, very high as compared to soybean. Phosphorus, very, very high as compared to soybean. Iron also is quite high. Copper, again high. Zinc is very high as compared to soybean. And of course, manganese is almost at the same level. So this is the reason why this mushroom is going to be of importance. And one more thing is, now this mushroom is, as I told you, it is not as soft as other oyster mushrooms. So if you have to market this mushroom as a fresh mushroom in other parts of the country, you might face problem. Unless and until, people are very nutrition conscious and they will buy it only for the sake of nutrition. But this mushroom, you can dry it and it can be powdered, and the powder can be sold as, protein powder. And that can be a very important way of marketing it. And this is, we have prepared one because it is very high on protein. We have prepared, a health drink with milk. When we have, just like we have malt, which you can mix in milk and drink. Similarly, this mushroom powder, along with the, jaggery and other things, you can, mix, and you can make a value-added powder, which is ready available. People just mix it in the milk, boil it, and drink it. So you can even add turmeric to that powder, and it can become a very good source of nutrition, especially for children. So these are the very important aspects of this mushroom. It can be grown between 24 to 30 degrees centigrade. Its biological efficiency is higher as compared to other tropical mushrooms like paddy straw mushroom. Not, of course, not compared to milky mushroom, but of course as compared to paddy straw mushroom. And its aroma is better than milky mushroom, and its shelf life is far superior to milky mushroom. Then we have another new variety of mushroom which can be grown in the northeast, but it can be grown in the lower plains where the temperatures are higher. The Pleurotus tuberigum, and this is Macroscybe. This mushroom can be grown in those lower plain areas of northeast where the temperatures go high in summers. So this was again, this is in nature. We collected it locally in Karnataka. This is how it was occurring in nature. This is also occurring in nature. So we cultured it and we studied it, and then we validated it through fructification. And then we have developed the production technology of Macroscybe. The production technology is absolutely like milky mushroom. You have to give a casing layer. The temperature requirements are also the same, substrate, sterilization, everything is same. But the only thing is that yield-wise, it is better than milky mushroom. Taste-wise, it is far superior to milky mushroom. The caps are soft, the stalks are also soft, and it has got a far superior aroma. Milky mushroom has got a typical aroma which is not liked generally by people. And also it is very tough. Many people find that it is not cooked properly. They don't like milky mushroom because it is very fibrous. But Macroscybe is much softer, almost like button mushroom. And the stalk is also edible and softer. And this is how this mushroom can be grown. And yield-wise, it is superior to milky mushroom. And also nutritionally, as far as protein is concerned, this mushroom has higher protein content. It has 19% protein content as compared to just 10% protein content in milky mushroom. Milky mushroom is very low on protein. So this is another very new variety, which now the technology is available from IIHR. The spawn is also available from IIHR. People can start growing it. This is the nutrition of the caps. This is on the dry weight basis, the fresh weight basis. So we have a very high protein, almost 20% protein. And fiber is also quite high, 17%. And of course, zinc again is quite high. So, these are all comparable to many other varieties. It has got a good shelf life, just like milky mushroom. It can be in the refrigerator. You can keep it for 10 days at 5 plus minus 2 degrees centigrade. You can keep, provided it is properly packed, with this kind of packing, with the tray packing and having the, anti-fog film. And if it is stored at 4 degrees centigrade, it can be kept for 22 days. At ambient temperatures, it can be kept for about 2 to 3 days. So this is how this mushroom can be. And of course, you can cut the stalk and sell the cap as fresh mushroom. The stalk can be converted into very tasty pickle. Also, of course, the cap also can be converted into very tasty pickle. But if you feel that, because the stalks are longer and they are a little more fibrous, if you are finding difficulty in selling the stalks, you can always convert the stalk into pickle, and the caps can be sold as fresh mushrooms. So this is how it can be done. So these are some of the new mushrooms which can be grown in the northeast. Shiitake, king oyster, hericium. These can be grown at lower temperatures in the higher upper hilly regions. And you have these Pleurotus tuberigum and Macroscybe, which you can grow in the lower plain areas where the temperatures shoot up during summers. So this is all about these new varieties. You can share or you can ask me any doubts if you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, madam. for your nice talk. This is Shitake Mushroom cultivation and all this. And so it is very informative, madam. Actually, you have nicely you have presented. And I hope all the participants, they have received that information and clarified their doubts. And now the dear participant, now it is open for the discussion and the question. So if you have any doubt, and you can just interact with the madam. I'll just unmute all of you. So I'll allow the participant to unmute themselves and ask the question. Morning, Sunit have some doubts, madam, regarding this bag preparation, filter paper, this method. And I think Sunit is here. Sunit, are you here now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please ask that question.
Okay. Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. Ma'am, actually, the question is regarding about like Stanton sir was showing some, I mean, during his presentation, it shows low cost house. And he said like for the humidification purposes, like we can on the ground we can place sand and some granite mixture or something, he said. And when we water it, later on that due to that evaporation purpose and all process, that room to some extent it stays humidified. So my hello, am I audible? Hello.
Yes, audible. You can continue.
Okay.
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay. So my query is like, since that thing is about the fruiting room, so during fruiting, we all know that when the fruit starts maturing, there's a tendency of spores coming out. So to some extent, some spores will be falling on the ground. So I mean, like if it is sand and all, then how can we, like after one crop is complete, how to clean it? I mean, because I just feel, I feel that if there's spores lying down on the ground, there might be chances of contamination in the next crop or something like that. Hello.
Madam, you are unmuted. Madam, you are unmuted. Please unmute. It is muted now. Unmute yourself, madam, and speak.
One second, yeah. As far as spores of oyster mushroom are concerned, I can still understand that, but it is not all that easy for the spores to germinate. So we generally, especially with shiitakes and with king oysters, this will not happen. But in case it is happening, then between two crops, always we tell you to, when the room is empty, spray with formaldehyde, so that whatever spores are there, they are killed. But then even if the spores are there, the spore germination is not all that an easy task. So you will not have, most of the time you will not have that problem. Yes, if you're growing these white oyster or pink oyster or those elm oysters, you may face that problem. That was after a very, very long time. And otherwise, you will not face. With shiitakes and king oysters and these other varieties, you will not face this problem.
Okay, madam. Ma'am, my second question is regarding this. Ma'am, you said like we can use the spent substrate of the shiitake for cultivating king oyster. So
yes, you can.
So, madam, my thing is like, suppose like I'm for how long or like for how many times can I use it? Like once this one, once that one. I mean, I guess there will be some lifetime.
It is a researchable issue. We have done it only once. So you can always try and see it. How many times you can do, how it is impacting the yield. And because every time it is breaking down, maybe after, I think not more than once, because it starts crumbling, the sawdust particles, they will start crumbling. So if you have seen it, after one crop, it is fine. But if you do second crop, after that, I think it will, the texture will change. So I don't think it will be useful after, taking one crop. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Madam, there is a questions in the chat box.
Yeah, you can read it for me.
I want to know about the shelf life of a pickle.
Shelf life of the pickle.
Mushroom pickle.
Yeah, what we showed you is that recipe is an instant pickle as developed by IHR, and at ambient temperature it is 1 month, and at in the lower temperature in the refrigerator it is around 3 months. Because this is instant pickle, it is a little different from the traditional pickle what is done in India. But if you do the traditional pickle, which is with oil and all those things, maybe it will stay longer. But this is not with oil. This is with vinegar.
Okay, any other questions, dear participant? Madam, you can stop this screen share so that.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, dear participant, any query? Morning, lot of questions they were asking, and sir was referring to you to answer, but that Sunit was one, he was asking that the other person
Sunit
also,
will
one more
constantly
question.
have questions all the time.
Okay.
Nice that he has got a very, researchable mind.
Okay. I think no more questions or what? Let me check in the chat box. No questions. Project. Okay, if there is no questions further, I would like to profusely thank Madam for giving your valuable time and your speaking on this shiitake and king oyster, and more introduction about these edible mushrooms in the Northeast. And you have really highlighted, Madam, and you have visited in all the parts of Northeast, and you have surveyed the market, and there is more information. And as we are here, and it is more valuable information for us, and the culture which you have developed and the strains which you have developed and the techniques, still we are adapting, Madam. And thank you so much for um, bringing this valuable information once again. I think for those who came for the first time, it will be more useful. And of course, and even people like Sunit, and he was continuously doing, and he's the one is asking a lot of questions, as you rightly said. And thank you, Madam, for answering all the questions also for our participant. And thank you so much. Hope you will agree to give in many more webinars information like this when we ask. Thank you so much, Madam. Thank you, dear participant. So with this, I will end. Kindly fill the feedback form, which I have shared in the chat box. Once again, I'll share it. And please fill this feedback form for your certificate. Thank you so much, Madam. I will end
Thank
here.
you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Nice lecture.